صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله نعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير. It is truly an honor for me to be amongst you on this very auspicious night in which we celebrate and remember our third Imam, Imam Abi Abdullah Husayn alayhi salam. The beginning of this month of Shaban is truly a time of joy and happiness for the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, because these are the ayat of Shaban, these are the Anwar al-Shabaniyah, the Eids of Shaban, the nights in which the lights of the Ahlul Bayt are shining in these nights. These months leading up to the month of Ramadan are months in which we are supposed to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by using the light of the Ahlul Bayt, by using the light of those individuals who were born in this month. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that our hearts also become illuminated and we become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, tonight what I would like to do is talk a little bit about Imam Hussain and remind us of some of his goals, some of his objectives, some of his missions, why he made certain decisions, what were some of the motives that he had in order to take this revolution, and why he made himself an icon of the Ummah. Inshallah, we'll talk about these things, and at the end we'll see what we can do in order so that we can use this and leverage Imam Husain's movement in order to better ourselves and move us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Imam Hussain was born on 3rd of Shaban in the 4th year after Hijri to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib and Lady Fatima salamullahi alayhima, Lady Fatima, she came to Imam Ali and said, "This is your child, why don't you name the child?" One of the rights of the father is that he has the ability to name the child and to give a beautiful name. But the way that Imam Ali was in his personality, in his nature, was that he was somebody who was very humble. And so he said that, how can I perceive Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi in naming this child? One of the things that we find in the life of Imam Ali is that Imam Ali would always refer to Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, not as his own children, but he would say that these are the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. He would say, Hadan ibna Rasulullah. He would say, these are not my children, these are the children of Rasulullah. And he would make this a point. Sometimes he would do certain things in which he would push his other children. And sometimes his other children, he would complain a little bit to Imam Ali, to their father. Like, for example, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. In one of the battles, in the Battle of Sayyid, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya is being pushed by Imam Ali to go and attack the enemy's lines. And he's being encouraged. And Imam is telling him to go and fight and attack the left wing and the right wing in the center of the army. And Muhammad ibn Hanafiya is watching this and he's saying, why are you telling me to go and fight? Whereas Hassan and Hussain, they're just there. You're not going and encouraging them to fight. Why are you putting so much focus on me? And so the Imam says to Muhammad ibn Hanafiya that these are the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it is my duty that I protect them. I cannot send them off to war. So the Prophet, the Imam Ali, he would always refer to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain as the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So when Lady Fatima asked Imam Ali to name the child, he said that, no, I'm not going to precede Rasulullah. Rasulullah comes to the house of Lady Fatima and he's giving Imam Hussain this newborn child. They wrap him up in this cloth which has beautiful fragrance in it. The Prophet recites Adhan and Iqama in his ears, and after kissing the child, he turns to Imam Ali and he says, "Did you name your child, this blessed child that you have?" And so Imam Ali says that, how is it possible for me to precede you in naming this child? This is your child, this is your son. And then Rasulullah says that, "Ma kunta li asbaqa Rabbi." He's like, Rasulullah said that I myself cannot precede Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in naming this child. Whatever the name of this child is, it should come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at that moment, Jibreel comes down and he says, "Al-Jabbar yuqri'uka as-salam," the all-powerful, The old dominant is giving you salams. And then he says, Jibreel says, Inna aliya minka bi manzilata Haruna min Musa. He said the position of Ali to you is the position of Harun to Musa. فَسَمِّهُ بِإِسْمِ ibn Harun. So give him the name of the son of Harun. And so Rasulullah says, well, what was the name of the son of Harun? And then Jibreel says his name was Shubair. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he says, Lisani Arabiyyun. He said, my tongue is Arabic, it's not Hebrew. What is the equivalent for it in Arabic? And Jibreel says, فَسَمَّاهُ al-Husayn. So give him the name Husayn. So this personality that was born on this night, his name is directly given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is enough for us to understand the greatness of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That neither the Prophet nor Imam Ali could name this child. This was a direct command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The name Hussain means goodness, righteousness, beauty. And this is what Imam Hussain, he represents in his life. He represents the peak of beauty, the peak of goodness, the peak of righteousness. When we name ourselves or we name our children, these are qualities that we want to instill within ourselves. So for example, we name our child Amin or Sadiq or Qadim or whatever name, it's this hope and this aspiration that this child grows to be like that. If we name our child Ali, to be lofty, to be elevated in those qualities. If we name our child Fatima, that they adopt the qualities of Lady Fatima. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions and gives the name to a certain personality, it shows that these are the true qualities within them. That in their personality, this is what they represent. And this is what Imam Hussain represents. Imam Hussain represents beauty. Imam Hussain represents that goodness and that righteousness that will go beyond time. Imam Hussain, the beauty which he represents, is not restricted to his era. That movement of Imam Hussain, the sacrifices of Imam Hussain, the remembrance of Imam Hussain will continue till the end of time. When we look at our madhab, when we look at our identity, we see the basis of our madhab, of our religion, is this love of Hussain, Hubb Hussain. This Hubb Hussain is such a crucial part of who we are. It consists and comprises what our faith is. We cannot imagine a life without the love of Hussain. The very pulse, the very heartbeat that we have, it is because of Imam Hussain. For us, Imam Hussain is the nourishment of our souls. A heart which is devoid of the love of Imam Hussain is a heart which is not beating. A heart which doesn't have the love of Imam Hussain is a heart which doesn't function. The very and only reason why we are alive in this world is to remember Imam Hussain and to remind ourselves of what his duty is, of what his responsibility is. And the more we reflect about this, we see that Imam Hussain is such a crucial part of our lives. We see that, for example, tonight is Shaban, the night of the Eve of Friday night. And it's recommended at the Eve of Friday night that we go for the ziyarat of Imam Hussain. Even if we cannot go for the ziyarat of Abi Abdullah Hussain in person, to do a ziyarat from your home, to go to the roof, or to go outside and turn to the Zariya of Imam Hussain and do ziyarat of Abi Abdullah Hussain. This remembrance of Imam Hussain, it's the very basis of our faith. And this is something that we need to do. We need to remember Imam Hussain on a daily basis. And the reason why this is because Imam Hussain, he reminds us of what our role and what our objective in this dunya is. When we look at Imam Hussain, when we study Imam Hussain's life, he reminds us what is our function, what is our objective in life. And the more we study Imam Hussain, the more alive we become. If we do not study the life of Imam Hussain, if we don't remember Imam Hussain, then our life has no goal, has no purpose, has no function. Imam Hussain is the one who brings clarity to our lives. Without Imam Hussain, our lives are distorted. We cannot see clearly. We cannot move clearly. We cannot practice our religion clearly. So the more we remember Imam Hussain, brothers and sisters, the more our faith is alive. And the less we remember Imam Hussain, that means our faith is weak. A heart which doesn't have the love of Imam Hussain is a heart devoid of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A heart which doesn't have the love of Imam Hussain is a heart which is always disturbed. It's a heart which is shaky. It's a heart which wavers. And this is something which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said. He says, by the love of Imam Hussain, by the remembrance of Imam Hussain, a person's heart becomes rejuvenated. Life enters into a person's heart by remembering Imam Hussain. The reason the revival of a human's heart is through the love of Imam Hussain. إِنَّا لِتَقْتِلِ الْحُسَيْنِ حَرَارَةٌ فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ لَا تَبْرِدْ أَبَدًا. In the hearts of the believers, there's a warmth. Where is that warmth coming from? That warmth in our body, that warmth in our hearts, is because of the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So these gatherings that we have, these poetries, these tokens of appreciation, these tokens of allegiance that we give to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, brothers and sisters, these are those things which make our faith. It's a symbol of our love. It's a symbol of our attachment to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And these gatherings in which we remember the Ahlul Bayt, in which we remember Abi Abdullah saying, these are the gatherings which we're going to remember the most. When we're in times of difficulty, when we're in hardship, we will put our hopes in these gatherings, in our love and expression to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There's a series of beautiful verses in the end of Surah Al-Zumar, Surah number 39, verses 71 and onwards. And in these verses, it alludes to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. In these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمِ زُمَرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the faithless will be driven to hellfire in throngs, in long groups, in large groups. The word which is used is siqa. The word siqa means that these individuals who were disbelievers, these individuals who didn't have faith, these individuals who didn't believe in Allah and the Prophet, that was siqa. They will be forcefully taken from the plane of mahshar on a day of judgment, and they will be put in the fire of hell, in the hellfire. حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوهَا فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا. When they're forcibly taken from the plane of mahshar, and they're taken to the doors, to the gates of the fire of hell, the gates will be opened. And when they open, وَقَالَ لَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا. The gatekeepers, the guards who are there, the angels who are there, they will turn to those people who were disbelievers. And they will say to them, أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ رُسُلٌ مِنْكُمْ. Did not a messenger come from among you? يَتْلُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِ رَبِّكُمْ. Didn't a messenger come to you from amongst you, reciting to you the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وَيُنْذِرُونَكُمْ لِقَاءَ يَوْمِكُمْ هَذَا. Didn't a messenger come to you, remind you of this day, the day of judgment, that if you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that there are certain repercussions, that there are certain effects? And they will say to them, Bala, that yes, warners were sent to us, وَلَكِنْ حَقَّتْ كَلِمَةُ الْعَذَابِ إِلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. But what happens is the word of the punishment became due against the faithless. So the word which is used is وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. That the people who are disbelievers, they will be forcibly taken from the plane of mahshar to the fire of hell. Because why? In their lives they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They didn't follow out His commands. They didn't pray, they didn't fast, they didn't do their wajibat. Their lives were spent in disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's understood that if someone spent a life doing evil, doing injustice, that they will forcibly take him to the fire of hell. Right? No one wants to go to the hellfire, to Jahannam, right? They're going to cling on to the ground of the mahshar until the angels come and forcibly take him. And then it will be said to them, وَقِيلَ ادْخُلُوا أَبْوَابَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. It said, ادخلوا, enter into the Jahannam and you will be here forever. فَبِئْسَ مَثْوَى الْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ. And this is the final abode of those who are takabbur, who show takabbur, who are arrogant in their lives. The next verse number 73, and this is where it gets interesting. Now the same word is being used. وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. The same word, siqa, is being used. But the word siqa is being used for who? It's being used for those who have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who have awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who have recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who were pious in their lives. It's saying that those who are pious in their lives, that on the day of judgment, what's going to happen? وَسِقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا. That those who have taqwa, who have piety, who are muttaqi, who are righteous, that they will also be forcibly taken from the plane of mahshar to go where? To go to Jannah. Right? And they will go in large groups. And then when they reach the doors of heaven, حتى إذا جاءوها فتحت أبوابها. When they reach, the gates are open. وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوا خالدين. And then the angels will welcome them and say, this is your final abode. But the question is here, is that why is it that those people who have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why do they have to be forcibly pulled and yanked from the day of judgment, from the plane where all of the human beings are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why would they be forcibly taken and to go to Jannah? It almost doesn't make sense. Because for us, if we were given the option to go to Jannah, who wouldn't hesitate? All of us would very earnestly, very quickly go into Jannah. So why is it that this group of people who are there on the day of judgment in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why is it that the angels have to come and forcibly take them and move them into Jannah? And so Imam Sadiq, he answers this, right? He answers this in a very beautiful way. He turns to one of his companions and he says, Ya Zurara, إِذَا كَانَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ جَلَسَ الْحُسَيْنِ فِي ظِلِّ الْعَرْشِ. He says, on the day of judgment, what's going to happen is Imam Hussain is going to be sitting in the shadow of the arsh, the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَجَمَعَ اللَّهُ زُوَّارُهُ وَشِيئَتُهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather his zuwar, those who went for his ziyarah, وَشِيئَتُهُ, and his shia, لِيُبْسُلُ مِنَ الْكَرَامَ وَالنُّسْرَ وَالْبَحْجَ وَالسُّرُورِ. It says that this group of people, the Shia, the lovers of Imam Hussain, they'll be all gathered on the plain of resurrection. And Imam Hussain is going to be sitting on the right, on the side of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of the Shia and all of the lovers of Imam Hussain, what they're going to be doing is they're just going to be staring at Imam Hussain. And they're going to be completely mesmerized. They're going to be completely enthralled by what? By the beauty of Imam Hussain and Islam. Just for them looking at Imam Hussain, that gives them so much pleasure that they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave what? The plane of Mahshar to go into Jannah. To such a point, what happens? Where the messengers who are carrying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings, the messengers from Jannah, they're coming to these Shia, to these lovers of the Ahl Bayt, and they're saying to them that all the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are waiting for you. All your prayers, all your sacrifices, all of your perseverance, all of the good that you have done in this world, the reward of that is where? The reward of that is in Jannah. And they will say that no. They say, Sawfa naji'ukum. Later on we'll come to you. Right now, what are we doing? Right now we want to stay here. Why? Because Imam Hussain is here. And so their entire existence is overtaken by Imam Hussain alayhi salam. They're captured by Imam Hussain alayhi salam. They said that whatever we did, whatever good that we did, and whatever rewards that we have in Jannah, let that be there. But at this moment, we don't want to leave Imam Hussain. We want to stay on the plane of Mahshar and just stare at the beauty and the Jamal of Imam Hussain. And so what does the verse say? The verse says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. The reason why those people who have taqwa, why do they have to be pulled to Jannah? Those are the lovers of Imam Hussain. Those are the followers of Imam Hussain. Those are those who went to the ziyarat of Abi Abdullah Hussain, and all they wanted to do is stay on the day of judgment by the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just look at Imam Hussain. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place us among those Shia of Imam Hussain. So tonight, brothers and sisters, is 3rd of Shaban, and this eve of 3rd Shaban is important for 2 reasons. The first reason is because it is the birth anniversary of our 3rd Imam Hussain, where he entered into this physical realm, into this material realm. But this date, 3rd Shaban, also has another importance. And the reason why it's also important is because 3rd Shaban marks the day in which Imam Hussain entered the city of Makkah. On 28th Rajab, he left Medina, and after a few days, on the 3rd of Shaban, he arrived in Makkah. And this was also another birth. The birth on 3rd of Shaban, it marks Imam Husain's birth, but it also marks another birth within the Muslim Ummah. What Imam Hussain started, what Imam Hussain initiated in the Muslim Ummah also happened on the 3rd of this month, 3rd of Shaban. Why? Because Imam Hussain undertook certain steps in order to rejuvenate, in order to revive the Muslim Ummah. The entire movement of Karbala starts from here. When he left on 28th Rajab, he arrived on 3rd Shaban, and 3rd of Shaban is important. Why? Because now Imam Hussain is in a very important position. Imam Hussain is in a very sensitive position And what he does is now he's beginning a new revolution. He's beginning a new stage of Islam. 50 years after the Prophet's death, what happens is that Islam has gone very far from its asl. Islam has deviated. Many forms of misguidance, many innovations have entered Islam. Now Imam Hussain has another responsibility. And what is that responsibility? To give a rebirth to Islam. There's a beautiful tradition from Nabi Isa where he says, لَمْ يَلِجْ مَلَكُوتِ السَّمَاوَاتِ مَنْ لَمْ يُولَدْ مَرَّتَيْنِ. It says a person doesn't reach the dominions of the heavens and the skies unless if they have two births. Unless if they have two births. The first birth is obviously when we first come into this dunya. But the second birth, there's another birth which happens later on in our lives. The first type is not within our control. When we're born to our mothers, when we come into this world, that's outside of our control. But there's a second type of birth in which this noble tradition is talking about. The second type of birth is under our control. We choose when we want to undergo the second type of birth. And this second type of birth has different dimensions. The first dimension is that we are practicing our faith, our trajectory and our direction in life is going in a certain direction. So we're not practicing. I apologize, my throat is hurting a little bit. It's been a little bit a tough travel, and coming to Denver and to this cold weather has been quite an experience. I'm coming from Dallas, so yesterday was 85 degrees. So arriving at the airport, it was negative 2-3 degrees, so my throat is bothering me a little bit. So please accept my apologies. But inshallah, the love of Imam Hussain in your heart is bringing the warmth down, inshallah. So what is this second type of birth that we should be having? The second type of birth can be of two types. Either in our lives we're going down a certain trajectory. We're not really practicing our faith is on and off, right? So we need another rebirth. And this rebirth, what is it doing? It's reorienting ourselves to our trajectory that we're supposed to be going on. We're supposed to be going on Sirat al-Mustaqim. We're supposed to be getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need a second birth in order to awaken our souls, in order to bring life into our heart. We're so fixated on the temporal aspects of this world, we become completely distracted of the akhirah. So what happens? We need a second birth in order to bring us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A second type of this rebirth is sometimes in our faith we're practicing, right? We're doing, our wajibat, but our faith is inconsistent. We become complacent. Sometimes it's active, sometimes it's passive. Our faith is constantly, it's fluctuating. So what we require is we require a propellant. We require something to give us a boost. Sometimes you play these games. I play with my kids. I play Mario Kart. So there's this, you go to these boxes. And if you go on that box, you zoom, right? You go fast, right? Sometimes in our lives. So sometimes in our lives we become passive. We become a bit complacent. So what do we require? We require this boost in order to raise our level of faith. We require this propellant in order so that the velocity and the momentum of our lives, it speeds up and we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this second type of birth, which in this hadith is mentioned, is actually echoed by another tradition by the Prophet, where he says, "Man balagha arba'in wa lam yahmul al-asa faqad asa." That a person who reaches the age of 40 but doesn't carry a cane or a stick, faqad asa, then that person has become a sinner. And the reason is because they underwent the first type of birth in their lives, in which they came into this world, but they didn't go under this second type of birth, in which now there's this jiddiya, where's this seriousness, where's this soberness in getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this word which is used, asa, it means to carry a cane, but it doesn't mean to literally carry a cane. It means that a person is undergoing this birth, now they're serious about getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the symbolic meaning of the second birth is now we are getting ready for this journey in our lives. Now we've lived 40 years in this life. Now we want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to concentrate our efforts only in our religion. So third Shaban, the reason why it's important is that both of these mawluds, both of these ibadats happened. One, the Prophet, the Imam Husain's birthday, but also what happened was a revival and a rebirth of the ummah. 50 years removed from the Prophet's death, there needed to be another rebirth, and it started on this day, the 3rd of Shaban. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
When Imam Hussain entered into Makkah, he entered 3rd Shaban, and he stayed here for approximately 5 months. He stayed here till 8th of the Hijjah. And during this period of 5 months, what Imam Hussain did was that he went and he began to raise the awareness of the people. He began to call the people to the true instructions of Islam. He began to remind people of what their responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was. Because this was a time where a lot of people were coming to Makkah for Hajj. They were preparing for Hajj. So, and then it's also recommended to do Umrah in the months of Rajab, in the months of Shaban, in Ramadan, Shawwal. So there were a huge number of people from all over the Muslim Ummah that were all coming to Makkah. And so Imam Hussain, what he did was he capitalized this opportunity in order to induce a second birth in the Muslim Ummah, in order to remind the people of what their responsibility is. The people of, during that time, they all heard of Imam Hussain. They all heard of the Fadail of Imam Hussain. They all knew about his knowledge. But one of the things which attracted them to go visit Imam Hussain was because they always heard that Imam Hussain used to resemble the Prophet. And it is a beautiful lullaby, a cradle song which Lady Fatima, she used to recite, when Imam Hussain was a child. She used to say, talking to Imam Hussain, that Anta shabihan bi abi, wa lasta shabihan bi Ali. Which means that, oh Hussain, you are more resembling to my father, meaning to Rasulullah, wa lasta shabihan bi Ali, but you don't resemble Ali ibn Abi Talib. So people knew that Imam Hussain was somebody, even in his physical appearance, used to resemble the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they all used to go to Makkah. Why? In order to go and see Imam Hussain, and go and listen to him, listen to his lecture, perhaps narrate a hadith from the Prophet, and go back to their cities and say, we heard Imam Hussain narrate a hadith from the Prophet, and this was a source of pride for them. This was something which gave them honor. So Imam Hussain, he took advantage of this opportunity. And it was very important because Imam Hussain during this time, he disseminated some of those important teachings of Islam. If you look at his khutbahs, if you look at his lectures, if you look at his different speeches which he's given, there's two very important themes which he emphasizes while he's in Makkah. The first theme that Imam Hussain is emphasizing, and whoever comes to meet him, different dignitaries, different delegates, the heads of different tribes, they used to come to him. Imam Hussain is giving them advice. What are the themes? There's two important themes that Imam is trying to get across. The first thing that the Imam is emphasizing is that try to get an accurate depiction of this dunya. Don't be deluded by this dunya. Don't become distracted by this dunya. This dunya is such that if you chase this dunya, you're never going to be satisfied by it. This was the first theme that Imam Hussain was emphasizing. And then the second thing that Imam he was emphasizing is that when it comes to this dunya, try to demonstrate strength. Don't fall into the traps. Don't fall into the glitter of this dunya. When a temptation of this dunya comes, try to persevere and don't pursue it. And so all of the khutbahs that Imam Hussain is emphasizing these 2 points, that don't fall into the trap of this dunya. Because if you fall into the trap of this dunya, you're going to lose your faith, you're going to lose this dunya, you're also going to lose your akhirah. One of the notable personalities during that time was a person by the name of Abdullah ibn Umar. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he was a person who was the son of the second caliph. He came to Imam Hussain, and he began to talk to Imam Hussain, and he was discouraging Imam Hussain from going and taking his stand against Yazid. He said that Yazid is somebody, from Bani Umayyah. They have this very deep-seated hatred against you. Don't uprise against him. Don't revolt against him. Rather, the best thing for you to do is enter into some type of negotiation. Enter into some type of agreement with him. Imam Hussain, in this conversation which is recorded in history, Imam Hussain tells him that Ya Aba Abdurrahman, that, oh father of Abdurrahman, Ama alimta anna min hawan ad-dunya ala Allah ta'ala. He says to him that, don't you know about Abdurrahman, Abdullah ibn Umar, that this dunya is completely insignificant in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This dunya has no value in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're chasing something. You're fixating yourself upon something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers it to be so small. The reason why you're not coming and supporting me is because you're fixated on this dunya. You're overwhelmed by this dunya. You're thinking of this dunya so much that you don't want to give up your belongings. You don't want to give up your possessions. You don't want to give up anything. Why? Because the love of this dunya is inside of your heart. Imam Hussain warns him that don't abandon helping me. Don't abandon coming to my assistance. And we find that Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, no, I'm not going to support you. And so history records for us later on what happens. That after the incidents of Karbala, Abdullah ibn Umar, he writes a letter to Yazid and says to Yazid that what a tragedy he committed, what a catastrophe has happened in the Muslim Ummah, that he went to be slaughtered at Ahlul Bayt. And Yazid responds to him in a very harsh manner. Yazid tells him that all of this what we have gotten is because of your father. Your father is the one who came and set up all of this. Right? He says that the reason why the Ahlul Bayt were taken away of their rights is because of your own father. The father of Abdullah ibn Umar was the second Khalifa. And for 20 years he ruled over the Muslim Ummah. And after him it got passed down and it came to Bani Umayyah and it came to the hands of Yazid. So he begins to, lambasting Abdullah ibn Umar. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he had a disease in his heart. And his disease was love of this world. And so what does he do? He responds to Yazid by saying, I give you full allegiance. Come forward a couple of years, what we find is when Hajjaj becomes the governor of Medina, Abdullah ibn Umar, he goes to Hajjaj and he goes and gives bay'ah to Hajjaj. He comes to Hajjaj in the middle of the night. And when he comes to him in the middle of the night, Hajjaj says to him, why are you coming to me in the middle of the night? Why don't you wait till tomorrow? And so Abdullah ibn Umar, he responds that I heard a hadith from the Prophet where he said that if someone dies without giving allegiance to the Imam at a time, then they die a death of ignorance. And I was afraid that I may not survive till tomorrow, so that's why I'm coming to you in the middle of the night and giving you allegiance. And so Hajjaj, who's sitting there, what he does is there's a blanket, some covering on his foot, and he removes the blanket from his foot. He said, if you want to give me allegiance, give allegiance to my foot. And what happens is Abdullah ibn Umar, he gives allegiance to Hajjaj on his foot. And so it became known in history that whoever doesn't give bay'ah to Amir al-Mu'mineen will give bay'ah to the foot of Hajjaj. So brothers and sisters, we have to understand that we are in this movement in our lives. Our lives are not stagnant. Every day that passes, every week, every month that passes, we are in motion. We are going in a certain direction. This direction of our lives is in our hands. We choose what we want to do with it. Our goal and our orientation should always be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's different types of movements. The first type of movement that we have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being a salik, someone who's a wayfarer, someone who's getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which means we're doing our duty, we're praying, we're fasting, we're doing our recitations of the Quran, we're doing the months of Rajab, Shaban, Ramadan, they come and we fulfill our duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We help our brothers, we help our sisters, other people who are suffering. We do whatever we can to remove the hardships from them. This is called a salih. But there's another movement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that movement towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is called majdoobun. That those who move to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a much higher pace, at a much quicker velocity, someone who's consistently moving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salikun are those individuals who when they're energized, they move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? For example, somebody who's on foot, when they have energy, they get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They move in the direction of their goal. But when they lack energy, what they do is they stop. The second type of moving to Allah, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is something which is talked about in the Quran. The example is given as an example of Nabi Musa for someone who was going through that first type of movement, a salih. So the verse in the Quran says, وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لِمِيقَاتِنَا Musa alayhi salam, he's going through different stages. Stage by stage, he's going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He leaves the path of Pharaoh, and then he goes to Madian. He's under the tutelage of Nabi Shu'aib. Slowly by slowly, he's getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the verse says, ثُمَّ جَاءَتْ عَلَىٰ قَدْرٍ Musa alayhi salam, slowly by slowly, he's He's going through these stages, and he comes to a certain capacity, and this is when he becomes, a prophet in a general sense. The second type of movement, this is something which we want, and the Quran also talks about it, and we celebrated this a few days ago. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Subhanalladhi asra abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa. The first one is what? Is that a person is moving on their own accord. But this second type of movement is what? This second type of movement is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is driving you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the fa'il. He's the actor. He's taking you from one place to another place. So in our lives, which one do we want to be? Do we want to be among the Salikin, or do we want to be among the Majlubeen? We want to be among the Majlubeen. Why? Because even if we're tired or we're not tired, we're always moving closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the question is, how do we fall under this category of being Majlubeen? How do we fall under this category of those who are moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at an extremely high speed, at a very high momentum? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he answers this for us. One of the companions comes to the presence of Rasulullah, and he's talking to Rasulullah, and a few moments later, Imam Hussain comes. Imam Hussain is only a child, maybe 5 or 6 years of age, and when he enters the room, Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Marhaban bika ya Aba Abdullah. Welcome, O Aba Abdullah. Ya Zayn as-samawati wal ardeen. Oh, the beauty of the heavens and the earth, marhaban. And so Ubay ibn Ka'b, this companion who was there, is shocked at these words of the Prophet. He said, how can a boy 5 or 6 years of age, how can he be the beauty of the heavens and the earth? The beauty of the heavens and the earth. The beauty of the heavens and the earth should be none other than you, Ya Rasulullah. And so Rasulullah says to him, Ya Ubay, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَنِي بِالْحَقِّ نَبِيًّا. I swear by the one who has sent me as a messenger. إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ ibn Ali فِي السَّمَاءِ أَكْبَرْ مِنْهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And know that Imam Hussain in the skies, he's bigger than what he is in the earth. وَإِنَّهُ لَمَكْتُوبًا عَنْ يَمِينِ عَرْشِ اللَّهِ. That on the right side of the arsh of Allah it is written what? إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ مِصْبَاحُ الْهُدَى وَسَفِينَةُ النَّجَاةِ. That certainly and surely that Imam Hussain is the misbah of Huda, is the lamp of guidance and the ark of salvation. So brothers and sisters, how do we enter into that second category of Majlubeen, of those people who are in a very fast manner moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's this Safina to Husayn. It's this ark of Husayn which we need to embark upon. Someone came to Imam Sayyid and says, Ala kullukum subhul najat? Said, aren't all the Imam, aren't they all arks of salvation? Imam Sayyid responds by saying, Kulluna subhul najat. Yes, it's right that all of us are arks of salvation. Walakin safinatu jaddi Husayn. But the ark of my grandfather Husayn, awsa wa fi lujaj al-bihar asra. But the ark of Imam Hussain, the ark of Imam Hussain is bigger. The ark of Imam Hussain is much wider. Asra, and it delivers you faster to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brothers and sisters, the key for us to be among those who are majlubeen, those who are moving in a very accelerated manner towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Is to embark in the ark of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That ark of Imam Hussain, who is driving it? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is driving it. Whether we are moving or not, the ark of Imam Hussain, if we are embarked on it, we are always moving closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq, to give us the opportunity to embark the ark of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the opportunity to visit the ziyarah in the haram of Imam Hussain and to grant us his intercession in the akhirah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us clarity in this dunya so we do not become deluded, we do not become distracted by the dunya. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us into his righteous and noble servants. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten to the dhuhr of our Imam, our Master, our Savior, Imam al-Mahdi, and make us among his righteous servants. Inshallah.